Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Mike B.
I'm Devin K.
And today we're going to be talking about the difference and the similarities between the Carcano Model 1891 long rifle and the Carcano Model 1941.
1891, 41.
Well, yeah, commonly referred to in the collector community as the 1941, but technically the 9141 long rifle. And you'll see why I put that in quotes. It's pretty interesting. So I'm going to kind of let Devin run with this for a little bit and get some close-up shots of what we're talking about, just so we're not, this far away from the camera. And then we'll explain that, and then hopefully we'll cover everything that should be obvious. We'll probably miss something like we always do. We're not perfect, but we'll try to get the basic differences covered as well as the similarities. So let's get going.
Will do. Alrighty, so now we have our 1891 long rifle here. Which year did it say this was made? 93, right?
1893. Yep.
Perfect. And then this is my Carcano 1891-41 made in 1942.
And we'll show you this.
Yeah, we'll show you the markings when we get to those. So originally, obviously, turn of the century, everyone's going to smokeless powder. It's the new revolution. This is Italy's first smokeless powder rifle. This is the pattern they standardized on. Some minor differences between factories, obviously because they had some manufacturing issues, which is why a lot of people don't like the Carcanos. They're known to be rough and gritty, and they kind of are, but they work and they don't really wear out and they run for forever, and they're in a really nice cartridge. Unfortunately though, World War II comes around. They start to realize that the 6.5 by 52 Carcano might be a tad underpowered for what they needed to be, much like the Japanese. They wanted to just beef up their rounds. They necked it up to 7.35 millimeter, but they did that in 1938, which is the eve of World War II, and they decided, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to go back to the original 1891 pattern, but we're going to do some simplifications to it to save some materials, save some man hours and stuff.
The logistics of having two standardized rifle calibers was just
so they sent all the 7.35 ones off to Finland. Finland will take anything that'll huck a bullet, basically, and they standardized on this pattern then to be their new model of rifle for the last half of World War II and the rest of their revolution, and their rifle for when they changed sides. So,
well, certain people change sides.
yeah, fair.
that's like a whole series in itself.
Yeah, that is a whole Italian unification and political bias and everything like that. Is its entire own animal that I don't want to get into. So,
all right, why don't we start back here?
So we can start with the stocks first of all. The stocks didn't really change in shape all that much. You will notice that the 41 did have some better ergonomics for the shooter. The butt plate's more curved, the butt plate's thicker, and it has a big reinforcement here at the top of the stock. You see the butt cap loops way over to help, because you'll notice with a lot of surplus rifles there's a lot of chips missing here, or repairs at this point in the stock, because when you're doing drill with these rifles, these get banged on the concrete or the pavement a lot, and that causes them to crack.
And you show the 91
and there's
it.
Yep.
They tried, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah,
so they reinforced
this will still crack for sure. The swing swivels didn't change as far as the bottom swing swivels. They're actually even the same distance apart on the rifles between the rear and the front ones, which is something that's kind of weird because normally when the rifles get shorter, that's sling base tends to get shorter. Mine does have the addition of side-mounted sling, though, as you can see there.
I don't know if they put on the carbines.
Yep, so that way this was meant to be like an intermediate between the carbine models and the 1891 long rifle. This was just the end-all be-all, give this to everyone, so we only have to make one. And moving forward from there, simple changes. Obviously, you can see mine is not... my stock was made a lot faster. It's not bedded as nice. The receiver kind of hangs out here a bit in the back. It doesn't affect the rifle at all, but it just makes it not look as pretty. Whereas Mike's here, original 1891, as you can see, it's finished much nicer there. And then we'll just stay here. The machined parts on the cocking piece itself are much nicer on Mike's. Mine are a lot wider, chunkier, easier to produce. On the safeties here, I could hold these then. So if you look at the front of the safeties here, you can see the checkering pattern. The 41 has much wider checkering, easier to put on than the finer checkering of the 1891.
And they're a little bit wider. The 41's a little bit wider on the bottom. You can see that?
Yes.
So wider this way.
Yes. And the bolt handles really didn't change. The bolt sleeves really didn't change at all because it's the same caliber and the same everything. The receivers really didn't change at all because you really can't change those so much. But then if you look at, we get up here to the chambers of the barrel, you can see the 1891 has flats milled in it. And those flats gave a nice, obviously flat surface to mark on, but they're also a lot easier to machine than a perfectly round thing. That's why a lot of people you see, like back in the day, a lot of people have lever actions, and they say the octagonal barrel is better. It's not really any better or worse. It's easier to machine flats than to machine a perfectly round thing, especially when your machine capabilities are already kind of poor and then strained because of a war. So obviously those picked up by World War II, and you see now a nice bell-shaped round chamber area.
You misspoke. You said that the flats are easier to machine. They're not. They require more effort. You literally got it in reverse. So, because you can throw on a lathe, you can throw the barrel on a lathe and round it out really quick. The flats require milling, additional milling, and that's why, like the Russians did, they went from the hexagonal or octagonal, whatever some people call it, chambers to the round mid-war or early war, is because it is quicker to manufacture round chambers than it is the flats. So
yes,
just
but
to clear
back
that up.
at the turn of the century, actually, that was not the case. It was a lot easier to mill these parts than to turn this on a lathe, because this is a long piece of metal.
Right.
And it was very hard to get consistently smooth and round like that.
But by the time
that's why
World
you
War
see
II
flats.
Yep.
By the time World War II came around,
This
for sure,
made more sense
that
than
was
that.
easier than milling the flats in. But at the time this rifle came out,
Yes,
that's
at the
why the
time.
flats are in it, because the flats are much easier to machine in than the rounds at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Yes. So, and then obviously you see a change here in the rear sight. Huge change in the rear sight. This is the only sight you'll find on 1893s, the original ones. The big long sight out to 2,000, they were using meters at that time. Okay. And your battle sight is obviously when the leaf is all the way forward. What is your minimum sight range on this?
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Let's see where this starts.
This starts at 6, so
5,
this is probably like...
Oh, it is 5, and then you got to use the front sight blade in the certain area of the... I'll make it on the video, on the V. So it is 5, yes, 500 meters.
Okay, well on the 41, it's 200.
Yep.
They really shortened that out. They realized they don't need to be shooting at absurd distances, so they made it the 200 meter battle sight, and then it goes from 300 to 1,000 on the 41, and then on the 1891 it goes from 600 to 2,000. They're a little bit more optimistic at that day and age. Obviously, that wasn't uncommon for rifles of that period, though. This type of sight, the Model 41, is the exact same carbine sight. This is the sight that you'll find on the carbines, even going back to World War I. They're smaller, compact. They're more compact. They're harder to damage, obviously, because they're not as long.
But 1891 TS had that size, so even the carbines back in the 1890s
had this carbine rear sight. Yeah.
But did they not? This is calibrated for this barrel.
This is calibrated for this barrel, so
it's not.
So
so it's not a carbine sight.
No, it's a carbine style rear sight. It's the same except other than the markings.
Perfect.
So, and then walking forward from there, we showed you there's the front barrel bands. You've seen those, but here you can see the side mounted sling on this one. The upper handguards really didn't change. The 41's a little longer because the sight is obviously shorter. The rear sight
Looks like the bands actually aren't in the same spot because the 91's just a little bit longer. Because right now they're lined up, but the stock is sticking out. See? And then when you line the stocks up, so they aren't in the same spot.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough, but still that is a difference.
Half
now.
an inch.
We just noticed. So, but yeah, the it looks like the band springs are the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
But then you look at the handguard on the 41, so if the butt plates are even now, handguard's still longer on the 41 than on the 1891 because the sight's just so much shorter.
Yeah, exactly. So you see this, check that out. The 41 starts here, 91 starts there.
Yes.
And they end a little bit differently, but still the 41's considerably longer, probably by about a good 3/4 of an inch.
And then barrels are pretty much the same, other than on the inside. The 41s do not have the game twist rifling. The 1891s will all have that game twist rifling where it starts kind of less of a twist and gets a heavier twist pattern as you get towards the muzzle. The 41s are going to be all consistent rifling all the way through. And the front sights are different, but these are actually this type of front sight you can find on 1891s, even very old 1891s. And this is the only type of front sight you'll see on the 41s, the banded front sight.
Well, even I have another 1897 M91 made by the same factory 4 years later than this that has the banded front sight.
Yes.
So, and then the front band looks a
Yep.
little bit
Different because this one's obviously more beautifully machined. They had time to do that back in the day. There was no war on at this point. And then this one was made basically in the heart of World War II, and you could see the very simplified machining processes to make it very, very easy to produce. So, and then the only other difference we had to take out of the rifles here,
Yeah.
and this is kind of a treat, is the cleaning rods. So we have both of the cleaning rods here. The top one is the 1891, and the bottom one is the 9141. So as you can see here, the loops are basically no different. They're squared off. But when you get to the little spacer recessed thread here, so in the 41, they did not mill teeth marks.
threads.
Yeah, threads into the 41s. So the 1891s have threads up here as well as all the way down at the base. So as you can see, obviously the 4-inch shorter barrel on the 41 because it ends right here. But other than that, they should have the same threads. Pretty close to it.
And also, what's interesting is the 1891, the longer one, that's a $120 cleaning rod if you can find one. The 41, about 10 to 15 bucks.
Yes.
So there's a very substantial price difference as well as the physical appearance. So, yeah. All right, I think we've got just about everything that we have noticed covered.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up.
All right. So there you have it. That was all the differences that we've noticed and researched. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's really cool to learn about these old rifles and, you know, kind of like people that don't know about cars. They're like, oh, it's just a car to me. They all look the same. That's how it is with rifles until you really get in and look at the intricate details on something as simple as this. They're very similar. They take the same cartridge, the same loading style, the same magazine, same end block clips, but they're very different in the way they were produced and why they were produced that way. So we find this stuff really interesting, and that's why we like making these videos. So you got anything to add?
No, but it just amazes me how similar these things are to, you know, despite being made 50 years apart, how similar yet how different they actually are.
Yep.
It's like if the same car company was going to make the same model of car for 50 years. It's the same car, technically, because it's the same model, but they just kept updating it and making slight little changes here and there until eventually you get to something that, on the outside from a far distance, if you squint, can look exactly the same, but close up, it's a world of difference.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So that's all we've got for this one. Yeah. All right. So if you like this video and you like all the other work that we put out, consider supporting the channel on Patreon. Stupid fly, go away. Consider Patreon. The link to that is in my description. It's $1 a month, $5 a month or more gets into the Discord server, which is a pretty fun time, and it does really help offset costs of like doing ballistic test videos and acquiring these awesome pieces of history to make videos on that are educational and stuff. And yeah, it just really does that. Also, Devin K's got his own channel who does content that's different than mine. We have some crossover, but he has his own kind of area of expertise. I have mine, and you'll learn a lot from his channel as well. So go over there. I'll try to remember to put the link in the description. I just say this to cover my ass because I've forgotten so many times.
It's happened before, yeah.
But anyway, if I do forget, it's youtube.com/DevinK. And he's got also a Patreon for his stuff because he is getting really into the making content and making really cool stuff because he's getting more crowdfunding. We can afford to self-fund our channels to an extent, but it really limits what we can do as far as financially, which everybody can relate to that. So with crowdfunding, it really helps bring really cool content to both of our channels. So consider checking that out. If you can't support the channels financially, that's totally fine. We totally get it. Not a big deal. You watching and liking these videos and spreading them around, sharing them to all your friends, that's really supporting the channel on its own. So again, thank you so much, guys, for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you got any questions, we'll try to answer them. But until then, that's
go
all
out and buy a Carcano. Well, they're still cheap.
Yeah, we'll be making some more videos on Carcanos in the future. But thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next video.